are. They have rules for the properties and trails that they control. They're available for people to review and look at. I can also share that document. They use what's called a class system, where these types of e-bikes are broken down into class 1, 2, and 3. And those classes are much more often used across the country. They do not map very well to the Pennsylvania system, but roughly this e-bike as described here would be a class 4. But then 2 and 3, it gets a little bit more. But there's ultimately with the class 3s, there's a whole class of e-bikes that has no throttle, is pedal assist, but their top speed is 28 miles an hour. So in that respect, that's an e-bike, sold as an e-bike, the illegal is out there, it's on the road, or on the street, but it does not fit into these categories. It's neither a motorized pedal cycle, because it goes too fast, nor is it a regular e-bike, even though it's pedal assist. It's a little bit, it's a big question, right? Like, it is literally illegal, but we have very little education or enforcement out there. So people just tend to, they can claim that they just didn't know they were sold it as an e-bike, and there's not a lot in the way of law enforcement going after people, in part because you cannot just look at a bike necessarily and tell which class it's in. There are some very brawny looking bikes that still clock in under 100 pounds, because 100 pounds is really heavy for a bike. But still have a somewhat smaller motor and may still be speed limited to 20 miles an hour. So it could look huge, you could haul deer out of the woods with it, but it could still be officially an e-bike used by Pennsylvania standards. Conversely, you could have a very light looking bike, but that was either had a very high powered motor or could go very, very fast. And that would, again, you can't tell just by looking at it, but that would suddenly no longer be a legal vehicle in Pennsylvania, or if it were, it would be expected to have license, registration, and insurance, which almost no one is aware of these things. In fact, in general, it's not really possible, other than homeowners, to have insurance for e-bikes. It's not really a product that's being sold yet. Okay, so those are a couple of the most strictly clear, looks like a bike category. Now, the next category is things that look a whole lot like a bike, but they do not have operable pedals. And this is, again, it gets a little bit hard to say, but you are somewhere between a motor scooter and an e-scooter. So let's talk about e-scooters. E-scooters, if you look across here at all these blank categories, e-scooters are not legal. You can only operate them on private property in Pennsylvania. You would never know that. You go pretty much anywhere in the entire Commonwealth. They are, right, they're everywhere. And the definition, I should point out, is not simply the scooter itself, but it does also include the other things in that category, like electric skateboards, single wheels, mono wheels, hoverboards, all of those battery operated, powered things that you stand on, and travel around on are currently not legal in Pennsylvania. You can use them on private property, but you can't use them on roads, and can't really use them on sidewalks either. Like, sidewalk is often, it might literally be controlled by the adjacent property owner, but it's not typically considered private property. There was a 5-year exception to this made for the city of Pittsburgh only. That exception sunsetted, I think, 3 years ago and has not been renewed. And of course, as you know, in the interim, they are everywhere. Now, they do have all these descriptions of other things that could be considered scooters, but I would also call to your attention that there are many things that look like this, but then just have foot pegs, not actual pedals, and they are essentially a variation on a scooter. They're like a scooter you sit on. They could be super scrawny or small, but typically they're that. Obviously, this is the traditional scooter that you sit on, the motor scooter. And for those, again, there's an age limit, duty, license, registration, and insurance, helmets under between the age of 16 and 21, and so forth. This is, this is sort of your moped category, your Vespa. It is a little bit different from these other items. It may very well, it's shown here being rated with a motor with horsepower, in other words, not so much an electric battery, which is going to be rated in terms of watts. I will say the one category of things that is somewhat scooter-like, e-scooter-like, that is allowed in Pennsylvania is the Segway. These are listed on here in this column, this row here. So they basically came out, they preceded all of the proliferation of e-scooters, and they were basically introduced, and all the legislation was put into place by fairly, there were lobbyists making sure that was in place, but it does not, that legislation does not apply to e-scooters, which I've been hearing since then. Okay, so that was me sort of throwing all of this at you. I am open to hearing questions. If people have specific questions, I'm glad to answer them in a second.
Question, Randy Brackbill. With all the devices and everything that you're telling us about, what about when people are going to be out at night? Their clothing should be bright somehow, because you see a lot of times people riding them toward night, and they get into night and you don't see them. There's like a shadow. And it's, to me, that should be a part of this program.
So I'm having a little hard time hearing you, but I think you were saying that these are all sort of motor vehicle laws, but you're concerned about how people are dressing and whether they're dressing for visibility. Is that right?
Yes, that's my point.
Okay. And so I will say that there are these requirements for light paint on most many of these, right? So we do have rules that you are supposed to have lights, right? Now, we don't have anything on e-scooters because they're just not legal in general. And then again, a lot of these things that we look at, they're essentially e-scooters. So yes, we should have lighting. It is easier to light things. They even get like down lights and, sort of a glow going. In terms of whether individuals themselves are required to be bright, we do not currently have like a requirement that pedestrians dress up in high visibility clothing. In general, we are trying to make our roads safer by design, and that can include lighting as well, especially in the places where you might have conflict between pedestrians and motor vehicles, so intersections, crosswalks, trail crossings, things like that. That said, it's often not covered in law, but it is covered in best practices. So if you go on the PennDOT website and look at the active transportation information, you can get to recommendations for safety recommendations. I know, like, I myself own a lot of what's called high visibility gear, and we don't promote any specific one of those at this time. Although I'm trying to get a sponsorship from one company. So we recommend that people be aware of the level of safety or lack of safety in their environment and then plan accordingly. But at the same time, we will note that in places that are safe to walk and bike, the people are wearing, or whatever they want to wear. You do not necessarily go to safe locations and suddenly see that everyone is lit up like a Christmas tree. It's more that we have what we call self-enforcing roads or sorry, I heard a different word for that recently, but self-enforcing is typically what we say. So the design of the road actually induces dressed too young.
This is Joanne Tosti-Basie. Follow up to Randy's question. Is it possible that if we were to consider putting a safety ordinance on dressing, could we do that here in Bellefonte as a local ordinance? And the
Sorry, could you, what kind of ordinance?
an ordinance where we could say that if you're going to be riding these vehicles in low light, you need to dress brightly so that cars can see you, or the people driving.
I feel like we would probably get struck down, but what you could do is you can enforce the law that exists, that the vehicle itself has to be lit.
And then the second question is next steps for you. When we had talked earlier, you talked actually two different things. One was doing a presentation detailed for staff, council members, and the police, and then a separate one for the public. And then you also talked about doing a two for all of them together. Do you have a preference? How do you want to handle that?
It is up to the municipality, and also whether you just want it to be, like, I could come, and obviously it's better to do it in person. But, you know, I think this is still a useful conversation. I am open to working with what you want. I can come, I can do it as more of a presentation, with just sort of indoors and with, you know, pamphlets and slides and, you know, just sort of talk things through. Or I can bring our micro fleet, our combination of their balance bikes, wheelchair, white cane, e-bike, e-trike, pedal assist bike, and then you could either do it as a petting zoo where people can just sort of look through and sort of learn about them, or actually have it be a live ride. So if we were doing a live ride, I would probably keep that to be a more contained group. I have done rides, e-bike rides with groups of up to 15. But it sort of depends on the local conditions, because we can only bring, you know, a certain number of e-bikes ourselves, so it sort of depends whether we can obtain others that we can use there, and whether we actually want to, you know, go do a route from point A to point B, or we just want to, you know, be practicing on things at a park or in a parking lot or something like that. But all I'm saying is very flexible. I'm glad to, you know, work with you to come up with what will make the most sense for you.
John, do you have a question?
Yeah. Sam, are you working with the micromobility office at PennDOT, or are you separate?
Good question. So I work mostly with multimodal, but also with planning. PennDOT is a partner in our program, the Walk With the program. They provide, like, they assist with reviewing, we provide funding to municipalities with the development of active transportation plans, so they assist with that. They help review applications. They do not provide funding, but we do try to coordinate. For example, I met with the statewide bike ped coordinator on Tuesday. You know, we sort of check in regularly, and also part of the pedal cycling pedestrian advisory committee. I am not, however, at all PennDOT, like I'm not on a PennDOT contract, and I also interact with what are called the Highway Safety Network and the other safety contractors related to PennDOT, but we are not one of those.
Okay, because, you know, we're sort of struggling from the standpoint that if you're in the safety community, you know, various organizations, the Motorcycle Safety Foundation has actually put together a class for e-bike safety, for training. But at the PennDOT level, it has been like they're not interested in getting that out, and they actually are worried more about whether or not tourist dollars are going to be affected.
Right. So motorcycles, part of it is a complicated situation, and there's literally no funding for education or enforcement of this specific topic. at the state level. So, like, we get involved in it, but we are not directly funded for it, right?
Right.
We just feel that it is key to what we are doing with active transportation planning. We just need people to have a better understanding of the context. But we are certainly not rolling out, trainings like you could get in each county or even each PennDOT district across the state. We're not running, safe cycling trainings. We do publicize things like People for Bikes, which is a national organization, has some very good e-bike, just online training. They also partner with the League of American Bicyclists. They have some good stuff, but it's fairly generic. It is not specific to our state laws, and obviously it can't be because it's national.
Yeah, I mean, you're in, I don't mean to challenge you, but you're in a situation where we're talking about vehicle code requirements that aren't there, so we can't say that lighting has to be there.
No, you are required to have lighting.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like brake lights and turn signals, things that actually would indicate to other people what somebody is doing at night. So there.
Again, for the more elaborate lights, actually, you are supposed to have rear lights. It's only regular bicycles, acoustic bikes, that are not supposed to have a rear tail light.
A tail light, but that does not mean turn signals.
True. No, turn signals are not required.
And we can't force people to be conspicuous. We can only ask them to be conspicuous.
You can educate.
You can educate.
It does have value, and when I say educate, I don't just mean the people riding the bikes. I mean also the people driving the cars around the bikes. Because to be honest, the bikes can be dangerous for their riders, but by far the most dangerous thing for the bikes are cars.
I can't say that I have any reason to refute that. I will tell you that on a motorcycle, that's absolutely wrong. But I will.
Sorry, I mean, motorcycles are like orders of magnitude more likely to be killed, not because of the motorcycle alone, but because of how they interact with cars.
All motorcycle fatalities are just motorcycle riders running off the road. 65% of accidents are motorcyclists running into another car.
Okay, John?
Yes, but they're still
I'm
20 times more likely to die than
in the car.
driver of the vehicle.
Right, but that doesn't mean that the motorcycle's not the fault usually.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah,
I
I'm sorry
appreciate.
about getting into a debate there. But I'm just saying that I think the education, we got to get that out there. I agree with you. I think we need to make sure that law enforcement knows that they can move the e-bikes. They are to be expected to be on the street. They're not on the sidewalks. They're not on the pedestrian paths. And
Again, currently, e-bikes are allowed as are regular bikes, but only actual e-bikes, right?
on where?
They're allowed on sidewalks and.
In
at
commercial areas?
central business districts.
Yeah, not in commercial areas.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Sam, so that we can wrap this up real quick, on our agenda this evening is going to be a motion about our next steps. Do you want us to just give a generic, we'll meet with you afterwards to do this? Or do you want us to say, well, do the intensive with the staff and police first and then move to the next one after we see what happens?
Again, it's a little hard for me to hear. I would be glad for you to sort of discuss amongst yourselves and then come back to me. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Sam. This has been a really comprehensive presentation. I know it's a lot of information for us to absorb, and I look forward to your being able to come to Bellefonte and give us an actual demonstration of the bikes. But thank you very much.
Great. Okay, and I apologize for taking more time than I said.
Well, this is a complicated, detailed subject.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to drop off now, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next on the work session agenda is the air pollution ordinance. Dave, if you'd like to take that.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So I'll do just a brief intro and leave most of the remaining time in the work session for council to discuss how you want to proceed. We've had an air pollution regulatory ordinance codified since late 1970, December 1970, when it was first put into place. Over the ensuing decades, there have been other regulatory developments at both the state and federal level, particularly the Federal Clean Air Act and the Pennsylvania Air Pollution Control Act, that have largely superseded some of the provisions that are in our existing air pollution ordinance. These are things like the regulation of the kinds of industries and uses, as well as emissions from motor vehicles and the like, that would typically have been under the purview of the ordinance that was adopted in Bellefonte Borough. One of the most significant inclusions in that ordinance was the requirement to appoint an air pollution control board, which, to the best of everyone's knowledge that has discussed this with me, has not been appointed in Bellefonte Borough for many years. That board is given regulatory authority, it's given oversight for enforcement, and it's given authority to grant variances from the language that's in the existing ordinance. Again, it doesn't exist, so a lot of that language at this point is archaic, quite frankly. So the Environmental Committee met last Monday, actually reviewed it at a prior meeting as well, and discussed what should be done with it. And I would say that about 90 to 95% of the language in the ordinance is either unenforceable by virtue of it being superseded or preempted by state and federal law, or there would have to be action from council to appoint members to this air pollution control board in order to enable the enforcement of the other provisions. The Environmental Committee considered several options, including the repealing of the ordinance in its entirety, or maintaining it as written and thereby having to appoint an air pollution control board, or revising it so that while a majority of it would still be repealed, you could preserve or enhance some of the regulations that are not preempted by state and federal law that govern maybe some other nuisance-related issues that might be that might pollute the air or cause some other kind of deleterious effect on the air quality. So what are they? Well, an example of that would be open burning recreational fires. There is some language that's in the existing ordinance that pertains to that use. There is also, just to note, regulations that exist in the property maintenance code with respect to how recreational fires have to be maintained. You could also consider regulations of dust and particulate matter, odor causing nuisances, and smoke plumes. So those are just some examples. What the committee wanted to have a brief discussion on this evening was, number one, whether you're in support of repealing a majority of this ordinance and revising it to include some of those nuisance regulations, and if so, what those might be to give direction to staff so that we could start putting some language into a revised ordinance.
And one of the things that we wanted to talk during the work session was we came up with some ideas of what we think are air polluting nuisance issues. We wanted to hear from the rest of you to see what else you can think of so that when we get down to the agenda and we pass a motion to authorize staff to help us revise the ordinance, that we are as inclusive as possible so we don't have to go back and do this over and over again.
Well, what are some of your recommendations?
Well, some of the recommendations we had was, when this ordinance was written in 1970, we had particulate issues, mostly from the limestone plant, and within a day or so, everything would be covered. Most of that is gone. However, for the people that are in the West Ward and up in the North Ward down towards this end, it takes about a month now, and then they still get that sooty sheen on their vehicles. And we're wondering to work on that. There may be something that's currently in the ordinance that we could do that is not too onerous for us to do the testing for. There was, with the open burning, we talked about what kinds of burning you could do and how to contain that so we don't get the pollution. We also talked about odors. I mean, we've had examples that some people are talking about garbage that is left out and it causes an odor. Others have talked about incinerators and some odors that come out. Those were the three major things we came up with, but we'd like to hear what else you all can think of.
Could I also add to that, we had talked about the crematorium. I know that kind of falls under the, odor, control, but for any uses like that, incinerators, that might be something you can put language to.
To be clear, though, we're not trying to get rid of Wetzlers.
All right.
We addressed that years ago, and they haven't had any other issues since then. So I'm not that worried about the chimney stack, whatever it is, for Wetzlers.
They also have to meet state regulations for that too, and I'm sure if they're in compliance, I don't know why we would want to do anything else with that. So that was briefly discussed there. I agree with everything you said, Joanne, and I think it's just some small things. This is way outdated. And we do, keep in mind, we do have state regulations that we also have to go by with this. So my opinion is to turn it over to staff and see what we can come up with. It may be a work in progress a couple of times. It may not. But I would like to see that go forward.
I would also agree, after looking over the information in detail and seeing that most of it does not apply, but only a couple, three things, yeah.
Is there any other input, questions, ideas?
If you or, I mean, listening to this in the public, have some air pollution-related things, if you can let our staff know once we pass this motion this evening, it would be helpful in making sure that it is comprehensive but not onerous.
So we'll hold off on buying the Ringelmann meter that we had budgeted for this year? All right.
FYI, a Ringelmann is some kind of test where you look at how dark the sky is.
Okay, is there any other comment or input for the air pollution ordinance?
I'm looking at this one on the bottom, it says dust. What's that? Anytime you got snow stuff, something like that,
Right.
things that construct, it's only dust.
I agree, it is a very broad term. There is a definition in the ordinance. It's defined as particulate matter released into the air or carried by natural forces or by any fuel burning process, equipment, or device, or from construction or demolition work or mechanical or industrial processes. So it's narrowed down a little bit, but it's still, I think it's a pretty broad definition. There's also fugitive dust, which is defined in the ordinance, which that's any airborne particulate matter that's not carried by a flue. probably something we would clean up in the rewrite.
Well, the
and
winds
either
we've had
remove
these
entirely.
couple of weeks, it's been pretty bad.
It's dusty out there for sure. This is it's an old one.
Seeing no other comments or input, the work session is adjourned, and we will reconvene at 7:30 for our business meeting.
Just keep it up. Does it stay up, or do I?
Good evening. Welcome to the Bellefonte Borough Council Business Meeting, Monday, February 2nd, 2026. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, Ms. Tozzi-Vasey, may I have a roll call, please?
Turn this on. Mr. Brackbill,
Here?
Ms. Clayton,
Here.
Ms. Dan,
Here?
Mr. Eaton. Here. Mr. Johnson is excused. Ms. McKean.
Here.
Mr. Kelly. Here. Me, I'm here. Ms. Wilson,
Present.
Ms. Meckley. Here. Mayor Johnson is excused.
Thank you. Additions to the council meeting agenda. In accordance with Act 65 of 2021, if a matter is not on the agenda, council cannot take official action on it with some exceptions. The council can act on matters relating to potential or real emergencies. Council may add a matter of agency business to its agenda through a majority vote. The council should state the reason why the action item is being added to the agenda. Council may vote to add an action item to the agenda. Are there any additions this evening? Okay, seeing none. Public comment. Borough Council intends to take public comment related to the motion that is on the floor after it has been duly made and seconded. The order of comments shall be public comment, then council comment, including proposed amendments by council members. If amendments are proposed to the original motion, the public will then only comment on the amendments before final votes are taken. You must be a Bellefonte resident, a nonprofit representative, a business owner, or an official representative of another governmental agency. Speakers shall identify themselves by name, street, municipality, if outside the borough of Bellefonte. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And as a reminder to our council members, please make sure your microphones are close to you and turned on when you're speaking. It really helps the public to hear us. Under communications, newsletters, items are due by Friday, February 26th. Please submit any suggested content to Alyssa Doherty at adoherty@bellefontepa.gov. The newsletters will be mailed no later than March 2nd, 2026. In your packet is a snow and inclement weather parking memo from Chief Whitmer. There is no additional action required. I have asked our interim borough manager to add this entire memo, including the alternate side of the street parking regulations, to our borough website under the drop-down menu under residents, so it's right there and easy to find. The Public Works Assistant Superintendent would like to...
Deb, I just talked to Chief Whitmer just before the meeting started, and he says they are currently working on a full, complete list of the emergency routes and streets here in the borough, and as soon as that is done, that will also be put on the website.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. That will really help the public. That was the most frequently asked question this last week. The Public Works Assistant Superintendent would like to remind residents that large snow piles created by plowing are dangerous and should not be played on or around, particularly by children. Also, it has a tendency to block line of sight at intersections and near driveways, so if you're driving or a pedestrian, just take an extra second because sometimes lines of sight are limited. There's an invitation in your packet for emergency medical services, EMS in your community, for newly elected officials. There will be a session next Tuesday, February 17th, which coincides with our council meeting, and the second session on Monday, February 23rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. at the EMS facility. I strongly recommend. If you haven't attended before, to do it, and if you have, it's a great refresher source of information about our EMS system and how it works. Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be acted upon by single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of council request specific items to be removed for separate action. May I have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda?
Motion made by Eaton.
Second, Brockville.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. Reports. Junior Council Member, Ms. Meckley, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do. So the high school recently hosted District Orchestra, which combines lots of schools like throughout the county, and we get to kind of like compete for our placements in different. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this better. We get to compete for different chairs. So like we had our trumpet get first chair, and she's moving on to regions, and she's playing in Heinz Hall in Pittsburgh, which is phenomenal. I'm so excited for her. And we are also doing a 5K for Mini-thon down at, I'm completely blanking. We are doing a 5K, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be in March for kids with cancer. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. In your packet is a memo from Gina about harb zoning and the Planning Commission. There are no action items at the moment. Under current and old business, Streets, Infrastructure, and Public Works Committee recommends the 2026 proposed street paving list for council approval. The street paving list will go out for bid in February. The final selection of streets to be paved will depend on priority and cost. I call for a motion and a second to approve the proposed street paving list as presented.
I'll make that motion. Dan?
Brockville, second.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Joanne?
I looked over the list, and I did not see North Spring Street between West Lynn and West Curtin, nor did I see Lynn Street from Wilson Street down to the intersection of West Lynn and North Spring Street. Are we not doing this paving because it was Columbia Gas that messed up the streets? And if so, will they be repaving it? And if so, when?
I'm not sure, but I can get you an answer. I'll talk to Matt and confirm that the utility is going to be replacing
Because
that.
those two roads are in pretty bad shape after all of the pipes that the Columbia Gas put on last year, and they need to be repaired.
Just to clarify, North Spring between Allegheny and Lynn?
North Spring between West Curtin
West Curtin.
and Lynn Street, and all of Lynn Street from Wilson down to that intersection with Spring Street.
Thank you.
I also have I have a question about Lamb Street, because there's sections of Lamb Street that are to be paved, and there's a section that is between Cowdrick Alley and North Wilson that it isn't indicated on the list, but on the map, it shows the entire section being paved. So I just want some clarification. Is it the entire street or just the 250 feet north from North Wilson on East Lamb? I mean, it says that it's only the 250 or 60 feet, but then on the map, it shows the entire section being paved. So I just want a clarification on that.
My understanding is the whole section as shown on
The
the rendering on the map, right? I don't know that the 250 feet west, I think that's the point, the beginning of the paving from the intersection of Wilson. So I don't know if they're coming in, if they're trying to tie in an existing paving spot, but I'll also clarify that
Okay,
too.
thank
But I
you.
believe it is the entire segment of street.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, the motion passes. Streets Infrastructure and Public Works Committee recommends the amendment to ordinance number 530, Vehicles and Traffic. I need a motion and a second to authorize advertisement of the amendment to parking prohibitions in ordinance 530, Vehicles and Traffic.
I'll make that motion. Dan?
Thank you.
I'll second it. Wilson?
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There's a memo to council providing an update on council chambers remodel. This is about the sound system improvements. There is no action required at this time. Council will be updated as things progress there. Clarification for council regarding the new temporary residential parking permits. The permit is free and available to borough residents and their guests. Although there is no cost, the permit only appears on parking report graphs when a permit is generated in the system. That's a clarification from our last meeting about.
Yeah, and I was the one that asked that question, and it still doesn't quite answer the question I had. It answers most of it, but there's a statement in that memo that says the limit up to 5 temporary permits may be printed per month. And my question is this 5 temporary permits total for the entire borough, or 5 permits per request from any one person? It's not clear which way it's going.
Joanne, I can answer your question there. So that permit is actually tied to an address, so there's only 5 permits for that address per month.
So it's an individual household?
Correct.
Permit. Okay. Thank you. That'll help the public and everyone else understand what's going on.
I have a comment, kind of question. This is only for the red spaces, correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. And I did not see, does it say that there, and I just read through it too fast? It says the temporary residential parking,
Which is the red space.
which is the red spaces, but not everybody knows that. So I don't know if that needs to be put in there too or not. And can I ask one other thing? This is new, is that correct?
No, it has been out since we started the red spaces. It's just labeled as a new residential permit. That's just the way it was phrased on the permit software.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Following up on that, I think it would add some clarification if we had like a map showing where those red spaces are. Since it is the red spaces, if we sort of, on our borough website, had a map showing the location of them.
Yeah, we can look at adding a map to that. I know that we do have the streets listed of where those spots are and how many spots per street.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the parking permits? Ordinance amendment to Chapter 249, Article 2, permitting possession and consumption of alcoholic beverages during borough-approved special events. Calling for a motion and a second to authorize the advertisement of the amendment to Chapter 249, Article 2 of the codified ordinances regarding the consumption of alcoholic beverages on public ways, grounds, and in vehicles, including the addition of an exception for borough-approved special events.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second, Dan?
Thank you, Barbara. Any discussion?
Could we have a little clarification? Excuse me. I know there have been events in Talleyrand Park in the past, and you weren't permitted to take it off the grounds. So is this expanding it so that it can be on the streets and, on sidewalks, people just meandering around with open
No, there would
containers?
still be the same kind of controlled area, the same way that we've had events like this in the park. You have to be Your ID is checked, you get a wristband, you can only, the alcohol is only available and can only be consumed within a specified area. And there are 2 memos in the packet, one from Pat McCool from the Cruise Committee from HBI, and also from Chief Whitmer explaining the details that they have discussed that would permit this event to take place under very controlled circumstances.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And next on the agenda is the notice about the first responders' weekend request for open container response from Chief Whitmer, and also the memo from Mr. McCool. So thank you for both of you for providing those clarifications for this event. And I'm looking forward to it. It's something new and different in the borough. Under new business, certified declaration of snow emergency effective January 24th, 2026. I'd like a motion and a second to certify the declaration of snow emergency, which was declared effective January 24th, 2026.
So moved, Tosti Vasey.
Thank you.
Second, Dan.
Thank you, Barbara. Any discussion?
Can I ask, I want to ask about the declaration. This expires in 5 days from the time it was written, is that true?
I think it expires when the emergency was lifted, which was actually the 28th.
The 28th, okay.
So it's in effect until the 28th. This is just to cover our bases, was declaring a snow emergency.
Great, thank you.
So,
That helps if we need,
so for the public's knowledge, this was put on the agenda because Barb, Claudia, and I attended a Pennsylvania State Association of Borough meetings on Friday, and they were talking about declarations of emergencies declared by communities. What they told us was that if we needed to have the council certify any such emergency declaration in order to preserve our right for assistance from either PEMA or FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Association or the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association. And it has to be done at the meeting immediately following that declaration, which means tonight is the only night that we could do this.
Okay, thank you, Joanne.
Yeah.
Ms. Clayton, I'd like to back up. Did we do first responders at the bottom of that before we got to new business?
That was just informational only. That was the memo from Chief Whitmer, and there's a second memo in there from Mr. McCool. That's information only, it wasn't an action item.
Okay.
We've had a motion and a second to declare this snow emergency. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. Environmental and Parks Committee recommendation to amend the air pollution ordinance. I'm calling for a motion and a second to direct staff to prepare an amendment to the air pollution ordinance.
I'll make that motion, Dan.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'll second it, Wilson.
Thank you, Claudia. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The Streets, Infrastructure, and Public Works Committee recommends engaging Paul Downs Cabinet Makers to evaluate and develop a functional room configuration for council chambers, including an accessibility review and preliminary cost estimates, with any contract awards subject to future council approval and budget availability. Calling for a motion and a second to approve the recommendations of the Streets, Infrastructure, and Public Works Committee to engage Paul Downs Cabinet Makers to evaluate and develop a functional room configuration for council chambers.
I'll make that motion, Brackville.
Thank you, Randy.
I'll second, Dan.
Thank you, Barbara. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. E-bike trainings for elected officials, staff, and public. Calling for a motion and a second to approve holding 1 or 2 e-bike trainings at the Bellefonte Elementary School.
I'll make a motion to do two separate meetings, one for the staff, council, and police, so we can get into the details that those three groups need to know about. And then once that, then we will talk with Sam Pearson about doing the second public one.
Okay, is there a second?
Wilson,
Okay, thank you, Randy. Any other discussion? John?
I think I would suggest before you take the input, which is actually a wonderful sheet from the micromobility people, that you review what your ordinances are within the community relative to where bicycles can be. Because I've heard various people say that bicycles can be or can't be in Talleyrand Park. And then also what sidewalks in town that they can be or can't be on. Because that's going to greatly impact whatever ambiguity is in this sheet as far as, do we have to worry about pedal bicycles and low-powered bicycles being allowed on sidewalks and in Talleyrand Park? And it may be a case where we've already established that they are not allowed in Talleyrand Park.
Are you making an amendment to my motion?
Well, I'm just asking if I'm would say yes, make the amendment that we should review what our ordinances are before we start educating the public on a program that may be talking about something that doesn't relate to our ordinances.
Yes, sir, Mr. Eaton. So within our general regulations for our Parks and Recreation ordinance, there's a specific call out that prohibits riding or using bicycles, pedal cycles, skateboards, e-vehicles, or rollerblades in Talleyrand Park, with the exception of where there's signage designating it's allowable. There's also a prohibition for the same of using the waterfront sidewalk between High and Lamb.
Okay. What about through the rest of the borough?
I do not, at least there's nothing that jumped out in a scan of our code for other prohibitions other than specifically Talleyrand Park and that waterfront. But we can certainly do more due diligence to confirm that.
Would our downtown area be considered our commercial?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that would say that we already have some prohibitions limiting what might be some ambiguity in this data sheet. And we should have that out there and clarify that before we have an educational program. I think the educational program's great, but we should make sure that we don't generate a problem that we've already cured.
So what I think we could do is, without having to do an amended motion, since Dave found the stuff, is to let Sam know what we can and can't do here, particularly within the borough, and have her help incorporate that into her presentation.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
And maybe we might want to put that on our website also, as a general reminder to the community. You're smiling, Deb. Why are you?
When the spring thaw comes around and people...
I'm anticipating seeing you out there before.
Okay.
I have just a general question. I thought I saw something that said that bicycles need to be registered in Bellefonte Borough. Is that correct or not?
No.
No,
Never?
no.
Okay.
True in State College, but I don't think that's here.
Okay, the motion that was made and seconded is to approve holding 1 or 2 e-bike trainings at the Bellefonte Elementary School. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. Dan?
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. Motion passes. In your packet is a written directive from Police Chief Whitmer to update the records retention and disposition schedule. I'm calling for a motion and a second to approve the written directive number 0202-2026-1, updating the records retention and disposition schedule.
I'll make that motion, Dan.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'll second McKean.
Thank you, Shauna. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, thank you. Public comment regarding issues not on the agenda. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on a subject not on the agenda? Seeing none. Council member comments for the good of the order. John?
No, the only thing I do want to say is the sheet that we did get from Sam is nationwide considered really impressive to help trying to clarify this subject. It's not a simple topic that we've ventured into. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Shauna?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Claudia?
I just want to commend the maintenance department for the snow removal and their dedication to getting things handled as promptly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Barbara?
I have a couple things. Claudia, Joanne, and I attended the boot camp for council members. Joanne, you said that was your second time. You went 10 years ago. I went 4 years ago, and Claudia was new. I've loved the way they've changed how they do this. It was a very, very informative 2 days. I think the three of us are going to get together and kind of go over. We talked quite a bit about some very exciting things. But one of them that all three of us went, oh, we've got to look into this. It's the Act 511 taxes. There's amusement taxes, hotel taxes, and there's also mechanical device taxes. And mechanical devices can be things like jukeboxes, pinball machines, video games, coin-operated pool tables, and also games of skill. You can tax them per year, and they gave us some incredible numbers, which I do want to look up a little bit more. Another thing you can do is you can also tax every time they play the game. It cannot exceed 10% of each individual price to activate the machine. So I would like to look into that. I think that's a very, very exciting Act 511 for our borough.
What we were excited about was the examples they gave, that there was we were able, through a fee schedule and permitting for this, that we could get $30,000 to $40,000 extra in the budget each year. And every community has these kinds of mechanical devices, including Bellefonte.
Yeah, I think it was very exciting, Joanne. We all agreed on that. Just a reminder, our next council meeting is on Tuesday, February 17th, instead of Monday, because it will be President's Day.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Mr. Volgo?
Having your report.
Thank you. Randy?
No report.
Okay, Joanne?
Barb just did a good job, no report.
Thank you. Ms. Meckler?
The Minithon 5K I was talking about previously is in Bald Eagle State Park on Saturday, March 14th. So come if you can.
That's great, thank you.
Deb,
And,
can
what-
I ask, did you say that the skills game tax went through? The skills game tax went through? Or that is,
Act 511. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So we can get the money, or we can charge a tax on the skills games?
We can charge permits for the machines, we can also charge a tax on, from what I understand, from people who are playing it, so it costs $5 to play it, we can charge up to 10% of that. We've got to do more research, but I certainly thought it was a very exciting and good revenue source.
Oh, it's a good revenue source. I didn't know that they passed a law to allow us to do that.
Well, it's in our Borough News for February, and it was in our...
Yeah, I'm not challenging you because that basically provides numerous revenue sources.
Yes, it does. It does.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate what Barb said. Thank you to the Public Works Department for getting our streets cleared. If you're out and about, watch your step. Things are thawing and refreezing in nasty kinds of ways. And if you're out shoveling and you've got a fire hydrant in your neighborhood or near your business, take an extra couple of minutes and dig out your fire hydrant. Everybody will thank you.
I want to add to that walking around Bellefonte, keep your head up and make sure you're not going to get hit by ice coming down. We've had that happen a couple times. My sister-in-law got hit with one and put her down for about 8 months.
Wow.
So,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to also add to that, yeah, we are, that people that have intersections, with sidewalks that lead out onto the street, would be really appreciated if you also shovel that, because if your sidewalk is shoveled, but you have to go through a lot of snow to get to it, people will walk on the street. So.
Okay, thank you,
I
Claudia.
put the snow out off the sidewalk from where I live all the way up to Wilson Street to clean that walk off, because most of the folks there are having issues, so I try to do stuff like that for people. No charge.
So the other thing I think I would like to say is people who use wheelchairs need more than a 12-inch wide shovel width. So when you're shoveling your sidewalk, try to do from side to side on the sidewalk, and then when you get to the intersection, clean it off so that you can get into the intersection. Because like when I came here this evening, there were 2 places where I had to go out in the street, not because the sidewalk wasn't clear, but it was that intersection where the snow had been piled back up onto the thing, and you couldn't easily walk through it without slipping in the ice that had been created.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, input? If so, I'd like a motion and a second to adjourn.
So move, Brackville.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:03.